You are listening to KLRN Radio, where liberty and reason still reign.
My son was in the Army back during Desert Storm, but even then he wanted an MBA. He looked at a dozen schools, but only one offered the online education and flexibility he needed while he was in a tent in Iraq, Grantham University. Turns out that Grantham's been delivering affordable, relevant college and advanced degrees for over 65 years. Heck, if they can deliver a quality education to a soldier in a tent overseas, think about the flexibility Grantham can offer you so you can earn your degree too. It doesn't matter how complicated or full your life is, if getting a degree is on your bucket list, you'll want to do what my son did. You'll want to call Grantham. Find out how easy it is to get started on your education so you can check that college degree off your bucket list. Call Grantham right now, 800-910-1370. That's 800-910-1370. Flexible, affordable, relevant. Call 800-910-1370.
Attention business owners and independent contractors. This is a money-saving message from Tax Mediation Services. If your business owes $20,000 or more in taxes, we can help you today, right now. Listen, dealing with the IRS is no picnic. It's an intimidating and extremely stressful process, and you don't want to go it alone. Our attorneys know every law, every tax break, and every possible opportunity to help you resolve and reduce your tax debt. And if you owe more than $20,000, you may be at the top of their hit list. So don't take your tax debt lightly, because it will not go away on its own. The IRS can seize your bank accounts, your home, and even shut down your business. Call our tax experts today at 1-800-783-0810 and let us deal with the IRS while you focus on your business. That's 1-800-783-0810. Again, that's 800-783-0810.
Hi, I'm Mike, founder of DollarShaveClub.com. What is DollarShaveClub.com? Well, for $1 a month, we send high-quality razors right to your door. Yeah, $1. Are the blades any good? No. Our blades are f***ing great. Each razor has stainless steel blades, an aloe vera lubricating strip, and a pivot head. It's so gentle a toddler could use it. And do you like spending $20 a month on brand name razors? 19 go to Roger Federer. I'm good at tennis. And do you think your razor needs a vibrating handle, a flashlight, a back scratcher, and 10 blades? Your handsome-ass grandfather had 1 blade and polio. Looking good, Pop-Up! Stop paying for shave tech you don't need. And stop forgetting to buy your blades every month. Alejandro and I are going to ship them right to you. We're not just selling razors, we're also making new jobs. Alejandro, what were you doing last month?
Not working.
What are you doing now?
Working.
I'm no Vanderbilt, but this train makes hay. So stop forgetting to buy your blades every month and start deciding where you're going to stack all those dollar bills I'm saving you. We are DollarShaveClub.com, and the party is on.
I know karate, I know jiu-jitsu, and drive like a gangster when I'm coming to see you, see you.
The following program contains coarse language and adult themes. Listener discretion is advised.
Good evening, everyone, and thank you for joining us today. This is going to be such a great show. A lot of people were really surprised that we were going to do a show about the Hooties.
Because we really want to say Hootie and the Blowfish, but no, wrong Hootie.
But we're going to be serious tonight. This is a serious subject. Yep. So the USS Gravely today shot down Houthi missiles that were launched at the Maersk Detroit merchant ship. Okay, the Houthis in the United States continue to trade strikes on Wednesdays. It's kind of like a tit for tat, but it's nothing like what it should be. And to help kind of untangle this web tonight is my friend, Captain Jim Staples. He is a 1979 Mass Maritime alumni. He was in sea for 37 years, ladies, and yes, he's married. Maybe that's why he's been married for 37 years. I don't know. I never asked him, but he's been a captain for 23. He's an awful, intelligent guy. He studied terrorism at St. Andrews in Scotland, and Diane will tell you where her daughter went.
Yes.
Also in Scotland. He is a consultant. Okay, we're not getting any inside information tonight, but he is a terrorist consultant and negotiator. And for anyone who's a Delta member or
Breaking up a little bit there.
Say it again?
You're breaking up a little bit there.
Oh my God, I can't stand it. Jim Staples, Captain Jim Staples, is a consultant. He owns Ocean River LLC, Maritime Consultants. He consults on marine safety, terrorism, and piracy. So good evening, Captain. Thank you so much for coming with us. And please, someone make sure that we stop 10 minutes before, because Captain Jim is going to tell us about
Joe, I'm not sure what you're doing, but I can't hear a single word that you're saying. Totally breaking up.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay.
I don't know if you're moving the microphone or... You there? Hello? Is anyone here?
One moment, please.
I am.
Is Daryl in here? Or is she fixing the microphones?
Looks like
So-
it looks like she may be trying to fix some stuff. So what I could make out was that she was trying. Yeah, we can now. It seems like it's back to the point where when you try to talk for more than a couple minutes, your bandwidth goes nuts. So I don't know if somebody's on your network that wasn't on last week, but yeah, it's kind of back to what it was before. The longer you talk, the less we can hear.
Okay, well, then I will just say the yes and the ahums. What did you get so far? Captain Jim Staples, studied terrorism studies over in Andrews, Scotland. He is right now facilitating some negotiations. He's at the Maritime Institute of Technology in Graduate Studies, otherwise known as MITAG. Could you describe what happened today with the Maersk Detroit, Captain Jim?
Yeah. During a transit today, the convoy, she was with another ship too, and they were attacked by the Houthis. The Houthis launched off a bunch of ballistic missiles. The Navy was able to handle most of them, but one of them got through and almost struck the vessel, the Maersk Detroit. I guess from what I'm hearing is that the blast was close enough that they could feel the heat from the missile. This is not the first American ship that's had a close call. We also had another ship, one of the companies that I work very closely with, also coming out of Djibouti. It had a missile launch at her. And again, same thing. It was a miss. These aren't very, very good guided missiles. These are just missiles they shoot up and they hope they can reach something. But the missile, same thing, was struck very close to the vessel, exploded in the ocean, but they could also feel the heat being radiated from the explosion. So this is happening quite frequently now. The Navy's been able to handle most of them, missiles that get through, but for some reason, one of these got through today, and luckily, by the grace of God, that the ship did not get hit. So
and this is an American ship.
This is an American ship. An American crew, yep. Master Mason pilots, so the officers on board, and the MEBA engineers are below with the SIU as part of the crew. So they're all Americans on board that ship, and they are over in the Middle East area in the Red Sea, moving cargo. And this is what they got to contend with every day.
And before we go on to describe the ships and that, could you please tell me, what is this administration doing now? And what have they done since they've been in office to protect our merchant marines who carry all our goods, all our ammunition, all our oil?
Well, let me say they're They're doing a bit more than they probably are in the southern border, but you know,
Well,
they
that's
are, they are taking some action, but it's not decisive action that's going to stop the Houthis. The Houthis are going to continue doing this until they're either totally annihilated or some other unilateral agreement comes about. But just what's happening today is, you know, with the shooting missiles from ships is not going to end the situation we have in Yemen until we get either a ceasefire is what they're looking for up in Israel. And I don't know if that'll ever happen, but, you know, this is a situation we're dealing with. The government could be doing more as far as I'm concerned, but, you know, it's just basically
it's a terrorist organization. It should not be confused with pirates. This is
exactly. Exactly.
They want to annihilate. They want to rule the world. There's no, you know, you're going to have to do tactically and strategically what you're going to have to do with your team. But people need to know that this isn't a matter of, you know, if we just do this or if we just do that. That's not how it works. And it's terrorism.
Exactly. It's they were a terrorist organization in the last administration. They were noted as terrorist, and then this administration took that label off. And as the Houthis are trying to work out a deal with the UN to be recognized in the whole 9 yards like that, but they're actually having a war with the Yemen government. They've been fighting the Saudis for quite a few years now, but they're still terrorists, and supposedly they're going to be reinstated as a terrorist group. But that's
just to reiterate what you said. So the Biden administration has done basically nothing, but the Trump administration decisive action.
Yeah, I think Trump definitely took decisive action on everything he did. He didn't have any encounters like this, though. We didn't have ships being fired upon and a war in Ukraine and you know, a war in Israel. We didn't have this much action going on around the world since he's left office. We were only dealing with Afghanistan, basically. But you know, that's the sad thing that you know, before he was elected, everybody was saying that we're going to be in World War III, and right now, you know, I really feel that this government's not getting too engaged with the Houthis because it would probably be very easy to trip and fall into World War III if that does happen, especially with Iran being involved.
Can you help the viewers visualize where the ships start from, you know, basic journey, and what as they go through the you know, the Suez Canal and whatnot, what are they facing in each specific area going on their transit route?
Well, you know, if a ship leaves the East Coast from the United States, she's going to cross the Atlantic Ocean and head for Gibraltar. So, you know, that's going to be winter weather, heavy seas, bad weather going through there. But they'll get to Gibraltar. It starts to get to be a bottleneck. Gibraltar is. They'll make their passage through Gibraltar and get into the Mediterranean. And then from the Mediterranean, they'll steam on down towards the Suez Canal. And there they may wait a day before they'll be at anchor before they can make their transit through the canal. That's about a 27-hour day voyage, the complete day from start to finish. So it's a long, hectic day for the crew. Everybody's tired. Fatigue's a major problem with in the maritime industry because we don't have large crews, maybe 20 to 24 people on board these ships that are larger than a lot of Navy ships where they'll have 500 on a ship like this. So it's, you know, it's a very tiring job. So by the time they get through Suez Canal, they'll go down through the, down into the Red Sea is where they'll be going. And they could turn up into Aqaba and go up towards Jordan, or they can continue south or go into Jeddah. And then from there, they'll continue down in the Red Sea till they get to the Straits of Bab el-Mandeb, which is another what we call choke point. Once they get through the Straits of Bab el-Mandeb, they'll turn easterly and go through the Gulf of Aden, which runs just south of Aden and up towards Somalia on the southern side. So they've got all that to deal with the piracy and being shot at now, especially in the Red Sea. You know, once they get to a certain latitude in the Red Sea where the capability of the missile can actually reach, they start having to worry about missiles being shot at them and drones coming at them, and also the waterborne IEDs, which are basically 16 to 20-foot boats that are just laden with explosives. So they have all these things to deal with after they've made a long journey from the United States coming across without being able to get off the vessel at any time.
Once so explain to people how that's not free. It's international water. So what does that mean, that passage? When we say
international waters, you are designated free passage. That's one of the agreements that have been made, that all vessels should have free passage in international waters, which basically means they won't be hampered with. Nobody's going to bother them. They don't have to clear customs and all that kind of good stuff. It's just free passage, and they can be on their merry way to wherever they're going. But we're not seeing that here. Even when they get down in the choke points. Excuse me?
No, and that's what I'm saying, the choke points. I mean, I guess, on the map, it's hard to tell what the geography is, but that everyone has to go through that area. So I can see that would be dangerous. Are they firing from that choke point there?
Oh, absolutely. It's a very narrow gap that you have to go through. Most straits are, or they've got a lot of traffic in them. Never mind just the traffic you got to avoid, but there's lots of hazards too, nautical hazards you got to worry about, shallow land, shoals, things like that. So it's, but there are lanes in there. So if you can picture like an expressway, you got a north and a southbound lane, and then you've got an area in the center there where everybody stays out of. But, even in the lanes, if you're heading south, you're going to have traffic that you're going to have to deal with. You'll have fishing boat traffic that's crossing through. And then you don't know who's in these boats. These dhows in these small boats could be bad guys, right? So they could be getting ready to attack the vessel at any time, making these transits through the straits. They get up to the Gulf of Aden.
That's what I was like Diane and I asked you about earlier, is the flags, where they change the flags. It would be like this is an American ship with American sailors. But we also have different ships with different flags that mean different things. And we're carrying what? We're carrying oil. We're carrying cars at some point. All the things that people need. And these people are not protected and then being fired upon. How long has this been the way that they live, the way that they work, the way that they transport our goods?
Well, Yemen is it's not a first tier type country. It's definitely third world. I've run in and out of Hodeidah many times, and the place it's biblical when you go into the place.
Describe for our listeners what you mean by that, because I really want them to get the full picture. I mean, this is not a high technology.
I mean, if you can picture the times that Jesus Christ and his apostles walked the earth, that's probably not too far from what it is when we get to the extremes of some of these cities, but it's not Chicago, it's not New York, it's not anything near that. Not until you get over into Dubai and countries like that are they, highly modernized. But even Dubai, you get outside of Dubai and it goes back to a desert and the way they used to live hundreds of years ago. So it's not really totally built up. And Dubai's a beautiful place. It's got beautiful hotels and restaurants and all that kind of stuff. But you get 100 miles out of Dubai and you've gone back 1,000 years.
Yeah, it's just insane how you were comparing that the merchants haven't had no protection since World War I, World War II. I mean, we're supposed to learn from our mistakes. I just, I don't even know what to say, that our merchant marines have gone unprotected for this long. And it is not a money issue, right, Captain Jim?
No. We have had protection at certain times during the Persian Gulf Wars. We would definitely get escorts. But I used to take my ship loaded with ammunition up through minefields. And they actually had, the minesweepers had been through and opened up a channel so we could go through. But we definitely had some protection, but we weren't being fired at like this. The only time that we ever had any problems was when the Iraq was shooting the Scud missiles down towards Saudi Arabia. We were up in Dammam, and there was quite a bit of action that way. But we had the Patriot missiles there that would take out most of those. But it wasn't anything like this. We weren't directly having, missiles and drones, because, well, we didn't have drones back in those days, but, missiles weren't being shot at us those days, except with the exception of a couple of ships that were taken out by a aircraft, an Iraqi aircraft that hit one of the tankers that we had running through there back in the 80s. And but that was a rocket that came off a jet. So we have stuff happen, but
so right now, if it's a U.S. flagged ship, they going through the straits, they have the escort of the Navy, right?
Correct.
So what happens with ships that are flying a different flag? For I believe there's a ship right now where they're being held the crew members are being held hostage.
With the Galaxy Leader?
Yes.
Yeah.
Could you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, the Galaxy Leader was what they call a PCTC vessel. It's a pure carrier, truck carrier. They're auto transporters. They move all types of rolling stock. So you can have dump trucks on there and high and heavy stuff. You can put rail cars on there. A lot of the ones that we use they do carry military cargo. We carry helicopters. We've carried F-18s. We carry tanks, M1As when we're doing military. But usually when we're carrying all the vehicles, we carry high-end stuff. If you remember, just recently, the Felicity Ace had a major fire on board just north of the Azores, and the total cargo was totally lost. The vessel sank, and we're talking high-end stuff. Lamborghinis.
Yes. All the people crying in the U.S.
Yeah. So they lost a lot.
They were waiting months for those cars because of COVID, and then it ended up sinking. I didn't feel it too much. I mean, yeah, it was
lots of Porsches, you name it. It was on board.
Wow.
So we carry all sorts of stuff on these ships, but on a Ro-Ro ships. And that Galaxy Leader was a Ro-Ro ship, what we call a roll-on, roll-off vessel.
Roll-on, yeah.
Yeah, she was empty at the time. She was on her way to India to get more cargo. And what happened was, as we saw the helicopter come from the stern and just about basically landed on the car carrier, and a bunch of Houthi rebels or Iranians, I'm not sure, but they got off and they took the vessel. They took the captain and the crew hostage, and the helicopter departed. But it was the first time we've seen that. But we have seen the helicopter used before, but they usually do a fast rope down, or what they call a fast.
Is that the same ship where we lost the 2 Navy SEALs?
No, they were not lost off of that. They were down in the Gulf of Aden boarding another vessel, they call a dhow. They were getting on a dhow.
That hasn't changed since.
Right. That's the dhows. The dhows are used to do a lot of smuggling. And the pirates used to use them as the mothership, so they would run their smaller boats off the dhows because they have a greater range, more fuel, and they could go a lot further than a small outboard engine can. So they would usually trail their smaller boats behind the dhow and go look for a target ship. And from there, they would launch their attack and get in the small boats and go get the bigger ship. But these dhows have been being used for thousands of years, for especially smuggling. Other than just moving cargo. But you'll see a lot of them in quite a few of the Persian Gulf ports, just loading regular merchandise. If they might be taking refrigerators or TV sets or any kind of household appliance you could ever think of, bringing them to different parts inside the Persian Gulf because they can get into a lot of smaller ports with not a great draft. So you see a lot of these dhows out there. But now the problem is we're having a hard time figuring out which ones are the bad guys and which one are the good guys. So the Navy's trying to intercept a lot of the ones that have been on a hit list, and this was one of those vessels, I assume. And the 2 guys tried to get on board and, were unfortunately lost.
Yeah, that was devastating. I mean, just absolutely devastating. Because the one that was trying to get up on the, what'd you say it was?
Yeah, they were climbing
up chain ladder.
Chain ladder to get on the ship. It's a difficult task, but these guys they train. But whenever you're up against the elements and Mother Nature, sometimes it's just overwhelming. And
you have the ebb and way of the ship, you have the move of the ocean, and then
right,
and the other one jumped in after him because that's what SEALs do.
Right. That's exactly right. Yep, absolutely.
Oh, and they all have all their gear, all their team gear, their vests.
Yeah, it's unfortunate. We've lost 2 lives already dealing with these Houthi rebels.
So what exactly are the Houthi rebels asking for to get this ship, the Galaxy, released?
Well, basically, they took the vessel because of what's happening up in Israel with the Israelis going after Hamas. But they want the same thing most of these protesters want around here to free the Palestinians and let the Palestinians go and keep letting the Hamas do what they do. And
I mean, we have the 21 Israeli soldiers, IDF soldiers, that were killed either, I think, today or yesterday. That it's looking like that's not going to be happening anytime soon. And Israel has the right to defend itself, obviously, from the atrocious actions that were taken, a couple of months ago. And I think it's a difficult time, of course, for shipping right now, because they're going to be looking for targets to try and pressure.
Yeah, I mean, we can relate it much back to 9/11. It was the same thing. We were defending ourselves. We went after the bad guys, and they're going after the bad guys. So that's what they're doing, and they know because they've been living this for a long, long time, that if they don't get them, it's not going to stop. They will continue. If they give them a ceasefire, I guarantee you that the Hamas will be firing rockets back into Israel-held land.
Oh, and they did the last time that there was the ceasefire. They literally the same day. They have no control over the different factions that make up.
They want every Israeli taken off this planet. They've said that multiple times. Their leader has said it, and that's what they want to do. And that's who they're starting with. They're starting with the Israelis, and once they get done with the Israelis, they're coming after the rest of us.
Yeah, pretty much.
That. And you have team friends. I have team friends too, and I know my friends are saying that we're gearing up. We are going to gear up. We don't know if it's going to be on foreign soil or on home soil, but you guys are gearing up too, right?
Yeah, oh yeah. I think it's going to be on both. I mean, you just saw in the news they caught that guy down at the border, and he was telling right there on national news that you're going to know my name. You're going to know it pretty soon. And come to find out, this is a guy that was being held for terrorism for a long time, and now he's out free, and he's come across the border, and he's staying right now. We're coming. It's going to happen. Yeah. You're going to know my name.
There's no rehabilitation here. There is absolutely no possible way that we can come to an agreement.
I mean, if you remember, Bin Laden said this was going to be a war that was going to last 100 years.
Mm-hmm. And we had a chance to take him out with Clinton, and we didn't.
Yes, 90.
Yeah.
And we didn't.
No, they had him in his sights many, many times.
And you have to again remember what we talked about before. Biden was the only one in that room that did not want the trigger to be pulled to kill Bin Laden. Mm-hmm. He was the only one in that room. So that just goes to show how weak he is, or some nefarious other reason behind it, because who knows what this guy thinks. Bin Laden was probably paying him for all we know.
You know what? The way politics goes now, we don't know. I mean, I don't know if you guys heard Carrie Lake was bribed. And so is our whole entire government working against us? Seriously, like, we don't know, right? Because how do you not do anything as Biden? You're going to play like little tit for tat because they don't want to provoke Iran?
The things that we keep finding out, when it came to the purported, what they call the J6, whatever, and the stuff that we're finding out that we suspected was always true, but you had that committee that we now know is lying, that they deleted 117 crucial documents, videos, or whatever. 2 weeks before the new House took over, the Republicans took over the House, which have been retrieved, except they're encrypted. So now they have to figure out how to unencrypt them. But we've been lied to. I mean, we as a whole, the government, in my opinion, no longer works for the citizens. They think the citizens serve them. And somehow or another, this is what shifted, and we have to shift it back.
Well, the United States isn't even posturing, right, Captain Jim? I mean, they're not even posturing, but they definitely are not prioritizing safety of American citizens in American ships. You know, we left what 80 million or $80 million worth of military.
The military equipment in Afghanistan.
Yeah, is that equipment being used against us now? Thank you, Biden.
From what I hear, it is. I mean, it's gone through the black market all over the place. So they've sold it to a lot of different places. I hear some of it's in Ukraine. It's probably gone to a lot of different terrorist organizations all throughout the world.
Yeah,
but,
I mean, I think it was I think it was on purpose. Oh, I forgot it. I forgot $80 million worth of gear. Sorry.
I can remember during the war, I used to carry home a lot of the stuff coming out of the Gulf, and it was destroyed stuff. M1As, APCs, all those type of vehicles were totally destroyed. They were melted down. They were been hit by explosives. They were blown up. They were just junk. Humvees.
Inoperable, right?
Inoperable. And I had a 3-star on board saying it was important to get this home because they did not want it used for propaganda. And that was back in the 90s and 2000s when we were bringing all that stuff back. And here I am thinking, wow, we're bringing all this stuff that's basically just scrap metal. And yet we left all that stuff in Afghanistan when one general says, because he says it's too expensive to bring back. And I'm thinking, wow, why was I moving all this junk if all this really good, useful stuff is too expensive to bring back? It just doesn't make any sense, And this was a general I was dealing with from Third Army, from Patton's own army, and he might even been a 4-star, I forget. But he came down with a whole triage of guys with him, and it was had him on board the ship the whole day, and it was important for him to come down and look at this cargo and to get it home. So, here they are leaving stuff up there, so something's not right. You got one general saying one thing and another general saying something else. So you tell me.
And our ships are all over the place, right? We have somebody in the Mediterranean. We have a couple of ships somewhere else. I mean, we don't have a lot of American ships that we can spare right now.
Well, we're split up pretty well because of the Chinese problem off of Taiwan right now. We've got quite a few ships over there that are dealing with the Chinese. But, and then we got fleet up in the Mediterranean. There's a fleet in the Atlantic. There's they are all spread up. And they're getting thin, too. You got all these sailors that are on board these ships for a long, long time. And, being at sea and not being able to get off and just go to a basic Walmart or something, fatigue sets in. And it gets to be a very tough environment to be living on a small vessel. Large ships get small very, very quick.
Oh, right. And you guys don't even have gear. You don't have the CBM RChem gear.
No, we mostly we're civilians. We don't have any type of weapons on board. We do not have any chemical, biological stuff on board. Not until we get picked up by the military to move cargo and going into a war zone, then we'll be getting it if it does come to that, if they even still have it. But during the Persian Gulf War, that was a big problem for us, running up into the Gulf. For a couple of months there, we didn't have anything. We had absolutely no gear at all, but yet we were still bringing the stuff up there because we had to get the mission done and get this stuff up to the military. But yeah, we did not have it for a while.
Right, merchant marines supply the military. They're civilians.
Yes, we do.
They're vulnerable.
Yep.
And I think we've been lackadaisical in taking care of them because if they can't to our troops what they need, they're going to die.
Yeah, the Navy doesn't have logistically the capability to move equipment around. They just don't. So they rely heavily on the merchant marine to move all the stuff around, and as we've done for every war, especially in World War II. The Murmansk run, we lost more lives in the merchant marine in the first year of World War II than any combined service. Any combined service, we lost the most lives. And that's because they were making crossings in the Atlantic Ocean and in the Pacific without any protection at all, while the
U-boats,
Wolfpack was out there. The U-boats were out there sinking these ships left and right. Here at the Institute, we have a whole wall that's dedicated to the vessels that were lost in World War II and the sailors that went down with them. And, but they were true patriots. They were getting the equipment there. They knew it needed to get there. And we actually had guys that were sunk, and they were in lifeboats for days. And they came back once they got rescued and came back. They went right back to the Union Hall and climbed aboard another ship and went back to the same route.
Yeah, because they're hero mode, right? They're in hero mode.
Yeah, it's the American spirit. It's what we used to really contend with, and there's still a lot of good Americans that would do that. We're kind of seeing that now with a lot of the guys going through the Red Sea. They know they need to get the product to where it has to go. They know it's their job, and they're doing it. They're moving it.
And the sad part is more than likely the weapons being used on them were, either could have come out of Afghanistan, but more than likely money that the U.S. has sent out to, countries that they think it or claim as aid is actually being used to fund these terrorist groups.
Oh, yeah. That's been going on for a long time. I mean, the UN, too. Same with the UN.
UN's dirty. They need to go.
That goes to them, and I think that's a pretty easy trail to follow if you really want to follow it. But, I mean, we're still giving Iran, how many billions of dollars do we give them? We know where that's going.
60 million went on the plane that Obama turned over to them, I believe.
Well, that'll buy a lot of stuff, but that's what we're dealing with, and right now we're seeing the results. We're getting beat up pretty much. Once we get into the Red Sea, we gotta be on our toes all the way around up into the Arabian Sea, the Persian Gulf and that area. So it's not safe for any of these guys, And the Iranians have been spoofing the GPSs, so the mariners have a bad signal.
Explain spoofing, Captain Jim.
It's when they send out a signal that will interpret the GPS that we have and change it on board the ship, so they think they're in one spot, one location when they're actually in another. So the ships can probably wander into the territorial waters of Iran, and that's when they're going to come grab them.
They're going to say you were in RCs, therefore.
Yep, exactly.
And that's exactly probably what may have happened to the Navy when they took the Navy sailors hostage.
Yep, that could have happened. Yep. Absolutely. There's a lot of reasons that could have happened, but that's basically one of them. And they've been doing that for a long time. They've already grabbed a couple of ships like that. So they're well known for it. Everybody knows it. But we train for that here. That's one of the things we do. We have two of the largest simulators in the world that you actually will think you're on the bridge of a vessel. And when you're maneuvering the ship, it's just like real life. So it's very realistic. It's very, very similar to what the airlines do with their pilots, the way we run them through simulations. So one of the simulations we have is we take them up into Hormuz, and we recreate a couple events that happened there. Dealing with the Iranians, we actually can fly drones and stuff inside the simulator. And I've actually had guys coming out of there being totally soaking wet from sweat because they were just so ramped up. Yeah. And we had a couple of them fall into it and believe what the GPS was telling them. They got out of the shipping lanes and they got into territorial waters. And they insisted they didn't until we were able to show them the track. And then they were amazed. But so what we do is we go back to teaching them the old school way of doing things, not relying on the electronics as much, going back to the old terrestrial type navigation, lighthouses and all that kind of stuff, soundings, all that kind of good stuff, the way we used to navigate when I first started. So, everybody with the younger generation, they're all electronically wired, and they all want to use their cell phones and all that kind of stuff to navigate a ship, and because they can get all the apps and all that stuff that they think's as good as anything. But in reality, you can all be compromised, where old school generally can't.
Absolutely unbelievable. And I don't know what you can divulge between your security clearance, but can you tell us if there's been negotiations with that ship? I think we're on day 60, right, with the Galaxy Leader since it's been missing. And, how much supplies do they have left?
And that's a good question. I'm not sure what they got left. I'm probably betting that fuel-wise, she's probably getting close to empty. And same
Is
with
that
food.
called iron cold or cold iron or something?
Yeah, she's what we call going into cold iron. It's where everything, once they don't have any fuel to run generators and stuff, then they're going to be out of everything. They'll have no plumbing. They'll have no hotel amenities. So no air conditioning or heat. The ship will be dark. Right? Yeah, it'll be in the dark. They'll have nothing at all. They can't cook. They can't do anything. The emergency generator won't have any fuel. So she'll be a dark ship. She'll be just dead in the water with no power. And
have you been in a situation before?
Excuse me?
Sorry, I was cutting out. Have you been in the situation before where, like, what can we look forward to as far as negotiations? Is there any expectation? I mean, we're obviously we're not going to be stopping a war in Israel, so.
Yeah. Well, I mean, when we were dealing with Somali pirates, we knew what they wanted. They wanted money. So that was just a regular negotiation you would deal with. You'd bring in a professional negotiator to deal with them. And that was just going back and forth, bartering as to what price was going to be agreeable to both sides before they would pay the ransom. And it was all about ransom. And, of course, we as Americans said we don't pay ransom. But so it was difficult. That was one of the contentions with the Maersk Alabama is, do we pay a ransom or do we just go in and do what we did? But, when you're dealing with terrorists and the terrorists aren't looking for money, then, and what they want is the war to stop in Israel. So, I don't know how to deal with a terrorist. Like I've been told by many people, there's only one way to deal with a terrorist, and that's to take him out, and make sure he's not a bad guy anymore. So, hopefully they're probably dealing with the Yemenese government at some point, trying to work through that angle, maybe through the UN. I don't know. But obviously there's probably some negotiations going on from the various countries that have their crew members on board.
But now with Biden, what was Trump's Navy like?
What was Trump's?
Do you think this would have happened when we had Trump's Navy?
I don't think this would have happened at all if Trump was in power. I mean, we were able to, take ships around the world and pretty much peace. We weren't having any problems. Even up in Afghanistan, they weren't even, Trump had laid it out on the line and said, you touch an American life and I know where you live. So, and that's changed. So, it's right now it could be, we could be seeing maybe these guys get released, maybe they don't. It's unpredictable with terrorists when you're dealing with these people. They're just totally unpredictable as what's going to happen. But,
imagine being on that ship in the dark, no food, no engine. You cannot speak to anybody. Your government isn't helping you. You can't go to the bathroom. Your government's not helping you, and people are worried about, if they can get the iPhone, whatever, 37i. And I think we really have to start paying attention to these things. That's why I was so happy that you took a break from the important work that you're doing at MyTags to speak to us and tell us what's going on. And how many ships do we have? 90 American ships?
We got anywhere between 80 and 88 ships that are flying an American flag, deep sea ocean going vessels. So we don't have a very large fleet. When we look at the Japanese NYK, they've got over 600 ships under NYK flag.
But don't you have some over at MyTags too, like some broken ships over at MyTags?
No, we don't have any ships here at MyTags.
Where's we talked earlier and we said that there was a few like broken ships. They're not fixed. They're not operable. They just sit.
Well, that's happening all over the world right now. There's a bunch of ships like that, but we don't have any here. We have an old reserve fleet that's sitting in a couple of the rivers, and these ships, some of them are from the 50s and 60s. And we're slowly bringing them to the scrapyard and cutting them up and getting rid of them.
Can Maersk or American presidents or any of these large, ships that
I couldn't understand. Yeah. Yeah, I couldn't understand a single thing you said.
Oh, I said, can't we get some SEAL team guys on the ships and maybe 10 mean Malamars? Not mean Colleens, but mean Mal. Well, we could put mean Colleen there. She might bite a few people. Or fire. All you hooties are fired.
Like, actually, what we're doing with the ships that are going through that area, we put on contracted teams that are civilians now, but a lot of them came from the military industry, the United States Marine Corps. We got a bunch of guys out of the teams, the Navy SEALs, that now work for contractors. Trident's one of them, where they put on contractors that with team guys that are protecting the vessels going through.
So if a helicopter lands on the front of the ship, they might run into something that they didn't expect. The criminals. Yeah,
they could probably deal with a helicopter, but they can't deal with ballistic missiles. They don't have the type of capability on board. And even a drone would be very difficult for them, especially at nighttime. So, those type of capabilities, we just don't have them out there right now. These guys are basically out there with, M4s and things like that, just for the piracy type stuff. People trying to get aboard on a boat, they can handle that, usually no problem. But, when we start talking helicopters and missiles, now we're starting to really ramp it up. You need a little bit more firepower and probably a couple more guys. Usually these teams run about 3 to 4 guys on board. I was doing that for a couple of years. We were putting 7 guys on board. And they'd go out there with about $10,000 worth of gear, and they'd have Barrett 50 calibers with them when we sent our teams out. But like everything else,
to my little friend.
Yeah, it becomes competitive, and you've got people that get into the business, and if you can do it for this, they can do it for that, and the price just kept going down and down and down and down. And what we saw was a lot of the companies started getting rid of the American team guys and bringing on foreigners, Greeks and Ukrainians or whatever they could get, and start putting them on as shooters. So, because they're a lot less money. So that started happening. But again, when you start paying people like that,
you pay what you get.
You're getting a lot less quality.
I don't want a guy who doesn't speak English protecting me. I won't be able to know what he's saying.
Exactly.
Well, they might speak English, but they might also not be as qualified, shooting or as accurate shooting a gun, or maybe the gun doesn't have bullets. I don't know. It depends on how much they paid. Was it included in the price?
Some of these foreign companies put Gurkhas on too. So and the older Gurkhas were actually pretty good, but now it's like anything else. You don't know who you're working with, so it gets to be a little bit difficult that way.
Yeah, because in reality, similar to being in the military, you know that your fellow Army, Marine, Navy has your back. You don't know that if you're part of a team that you don't necessarily know the other people, that the hodgepodge that they put together. You know what I mean? You like to know that your team is.
You get mixed nationalities in there. You can also have a lot of other type of problems too. So
right.
They don't want a Croatian and a Bosnian or a
Serbian and a Bosnian.
Right.
But I had a because we're running, towards the end of our show, but I wanted to ask one question that I did ask you this before, but we did ask what the highest wave you've ever seen being out on the seas, which literally I wanted to I would have literally probably curled up down. I would have just screamed and probably died of fright. But anyways, if you could tell us how big this wave was, because I was floored.
Oh yeah,
and how did you survive it?
Yeah. The weather out there can get really harsh. You can get 60, 70 foot seas sometimes, and when you get if you get really caught up into a typhoon or a hurricane, and we had broken down, and we got stuck in a hurricane, and it got pretty bad, and we were close to the eye, and we had no engine, so we were actually running from the storm, and we had gotten away from it, but then we broke down, and the storm came right over the top of us, and I was moving ammunition at the time, hand grenades and bombs and the whole 9 yards. But, the seas were 60, 70 foot. We had recorded about 120 knots of wind. It was pretty bad. It was
Did
pretty
you see
scary.
the blue sky though in the eye?
I don't even remember. I don't think I was looking up too much. I would think I was praying too much.
I mean, that's just insane.
Let's just say it was so bad that it was the only time I ever thought about picking up the satellite phone and calling my wife and saying goodbye.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah,
But
because
wait,
I didn't know if we were going to make it out of there or not.
Oh, please tell us. Okay, we're going to change gears here real quick. Mark Charbonnet was murdered by this. I'm not even going to say his name, but on Route 3 in Kingston when I was really new on the job. And
as he was a state police trooper, so people understand.
He was a state police trooper. And Captain Jim, you got like 3 minutes to tell what you were overseas, and you said the sat phone. That's what reminded me of it. And you had a feeling. Can you go from there?
Yeah, well, Mark had lived across the street from me, and we became pretty good friends. He was quite a bit younger than I am, so he knew what I did, and I had known him for a while. And I told him, I said, hey, why don't you make a trip up the coast with me one of these days? And he said, yeah, I'd be glad to. So I was on a trip. I went to Japan, and I loaded in Japan and was on my way back. And I woke up one night, and about 2 o'clock in the morning, I said, something's wrong at home. I don't know what it is, but I got a really bad feeling something's happened. And I went on and called my wife on the sat phone. And she picked up the phone, and I said, Ann, is everything all right? I've got a really bad feeling something's happened. And she goes, oh, my God. She goes, how did you know? She said, Mark was killed last night. And,
I got goosebumps because you and he used to sit on the couch and used to talk shit about the neighbor.
Oh, yeah. All the time. Yeah.
But then,
the neighbor's he's a story. We could write a book about the guy. But,
all right, 2 minutes. We have... So you're in Japan, and one of your trainees, this was after Mark dies, one of your trainees, you go for because she's adopted and she's going to find her parents?
Yeah, correct. It was a Korean cadet that I had on board, and she was adopted. And we were going to Korea. We were carrying military stuff that was actually going up to the border of Vietnam. And she was going to meet some people because she was looking for her father. She had never met her father because she was literally left at a stop somewhere. And she was born into an adoption agency and adopted by American parents. And so she told me what was going on. So I got all her information, and I talked to a couple of the Navy guys I was working with. Says, hey, can you
you talked to a couple of spooks, you mean?
Yeah, can you help me out and see if you can find anything out for this girl? She's looking for a father. Well, we took about a 3-month trip, came back in a Korea, and I was sitting down with the agent. The agent, we took care of all our business, and then he looked at me and he said, "You don't happen to have a cadet by the name of so and so on board?" And I said, "Yeah, I do." He goes, "Well, her father's here," and I said, "You're kidding me?" And they had found her father, and they had set it up the next day that she was going to go meet her father, and that's what happened. And during that period, she'd asked me if I would go with her, and of course I did. And it was probably one of the most emotional things I've ever seen, other than having my first child born, But it was really emotional to see a woman get reunited with her long-lost father.
Yeah.
And the story got interesting when we got back to the Navy, and they had a big celebration there for us because the mission was over, and had a cookout, and the captain brought his wife down and introduced me to his wife. And we were sitting and stuff, and I actually had a hat on that said 953, which was Chabot's cruiser number. Mm-hmm. And she asked me, she said, what does that number represent? And I said, well, this was a dear friend of mine that was murdered. He was shot and killed on the highway, Mass State Trooper. And she goes, oh. She goes, my cousin was a state trooper who died on duty too. And I said, oh, yeah, who was that? And she said, and I said, it wasn't Jimmy Metaliano, because he was the only trooper I knew who died.
Yeah.
And she goes, oh, yes, it was. So that was another amazing story because I had known Jimmy.
He's the one who was in the helicopter crash.
Right, exactly. So I knew Jimmy. Mm-hmm. I knew Jimmy really well. I knew Jerry. I know Jerry, his brother, real well. And I just sent him Jerry a message a couple of weeks ago. So, but
I had the detail at Jimmy's house.
And it's amazing what a small world it is. But we actually have to wind up because it is after 10 o'clock.
All right. God bless Mark Chabot and Metaliano. And thank you, Captain Jim. I hope you'll come back and let us know how this resolved.
Sure. Absolutely. It was a real pleasure.
Absolutely. Thank you so much. It was great to have you and so interesting. And we'll be in touch. Have a great week, everybody.
Thank you.
Be safe out there. Be safe.